The sun had already slipped below the horizon when Lyra stumbled through the dense forest. Her cloak was torn and her boots were covered in mud, but she did not stop. Every snap of a branch beneath her feet made her heart race. She had been running for hours, though she did not know from what or whom. Only that the village she once called home had turned its back on her. Whispers had followed her like shadows, and now she was marked. The Broken Omega. Lyra finally found a small clearing near an old, gnarled oak. The air here was cooler, touched with the earthy scent of moss and damp leaves. She sank to her knees, panting, and unwrapped the small bundle she had carried with her. Inside was a thin blanket, some dried meat, and a flask of water, barely enough to last the night. She had learned long ago to carry as little as possible, for belongings weighed you down. But she had clung to these few items like a lifeline. The forest was quiet now. Too quiet. Shadows stretched like long fingers across the ground. Moving in time with the flickering light of the small fire Lyra managed to coax into life, she wrapped the blanket around herself, trying to feel some warmth against the creeping cold that had nothing to do with the night air. It was her own fear that chilled her bones. Lyra closed her eyes, trying to remember the last day she had felt safe. A laugh, the sunlight on a field, the smell of her mother's cooking. It felt like a lifetime ago. She shivered and opened her eyes again. The forest seemed to hold its breath. Then came the first sound, a low, distant howl. Lyra stiffened, listening. Another followed, closer this time, and another. She swallowed, trying to keep calm. Wolves were common here, but she had never felt this sense of attention before. These were not ordinary animals. They moved with a purpose, their howls weaving through the trees like a warning or perhaps an invitation. Her instincts screamed at her to run, but she was too tired. She stayed by the fire, eyes wide, watching the shadows that seemed to dance at the edges of the clearing. A shape emerged first, a dark blur moving with surprising grace, then another and another, until a massive pack had gathered around the perimeter of her camp. Their eyes glowed like amber in the firelight, reflecting both intelligence and something else she could not name. Lyra's pulse quickened, but strangely, there was no immediate threat. The wolves did not rush her, did not snarl. They simply watched, circling slowly like guardians or judges. She tightened her grip on the small dagger she carried at her belt, though it felt almost absurd against creatures so wild and immense. One wolf stepped forward from the circle. Larger than the rest, its fur dark as midnight, eyes glinting with a strange light. Its gaze met hers, and for a moment she felt as if the world had narrowed to only the two of them. There was a weight in that gaze, a silent communication that stirred something deep inside her. Fear, yes, but also recognition. And then came the voice, not spoken aloud but in her mind. Low, commanding, and impossibly calm. You don't belong to them. You belong to us. Lyra froze, her hand trembling on the dagger. Her heart hammered so loud she feared the wolves could hear it. The voice was not cruel nor kind. It was a truth she could not argue against. Somehow she understood it perfectly, as if she had known it all her life. The massive wolf tilted its head slightly, studying her. The rest of the pack waited silently behind, a dark, shifting wall of fur and teeth, yet their presence was oddly protective. Lyra's fear twisted into confusion. She wanted to run, yet every instinct told her that moving away would be wrong. Hours passed, or perhaps only minutes. Time seemed meaningless in the forest at night. Lyra could hear her own breath, the crackle of the fire, the soft padding of paws on the damp earth, and the eyes. So many eyes, watching, understanding, waiting. Finally, the largest wolf stepped closer until it was only a few paces from her. Lyra could see the scars on its muzzle, the muscle beneath its sleek coat. There was pain here, yes, but also strength. She felt drawn to it as if their fates were tied in some way she did not yet understand. Do you understand fear? The voice asked, echoing again in her mind. Lyra swallowed hard. I understand betrayal, she whispered almost to herself. And loneliness. The wolf studied her for a long moment, then nodded, almost imperceptibly. The rest of the pack shifted, a ripple moving through them as if acknowledging her words. Lyra felt a shiver of something she could not name. Not fear, not safety, but belonging. She moved a small step forward, testing the strange trust she felt growing in her chest. The wolf mirrored her motion, never breaking eye contact. A bond seemed to stretch across the firelight, invisible yet tangible. She remembered the old stories her grandmother had told her, Tales of spirits, of creatures that were more than they seemed, of humans chosen to heal the wounded, cursed, or lost. Lyra had never believed them. Now she wondered if the stories had been waiting for her all along. The night deepened and the forest itself seemed to lean closer, holding its breath with her. Lyra huddled closer to the fire, aware of every movement, every sound. A gentle wind stirred the branches and she shivered again, not from cold but from anticipation. She knew this night would change her life forever. A distant howl rose and the pack responded, a chorus of sound that resonated deep within her chest. The wolf beside her, Kale, though she did not know his name yet, tilted its head back and joined the call. Lyra found herself lifting her own voice in response, timid at first, then stronger. It was a strange, wild harmony, and in that moment, fear melted into something else. Recognition. She was not alone. As she sat there, surrounded by the watching pack, a thought took hold. Perhaps she had been running not from the world, but toward this moment, toward this place where the broken might be made whole. And then she saw it, a shadow moving among the trees far beyond the firelight. Not a wolf, not human, something else, something that did not belong in this world, and yet it was drawn to her, drawn to the fire, drawn to the pack. Her pulse quickened and Kale's eyes glinted with warning. The pack stirred, muscles tensing, fur bristling. Lyra could feel the connection now, stronger than ever, like a tether between her and the massive wolf. Whatever came next, she would not face it alone. Tonight, Kale's voice echoed in her mind again, low and resonant. You learn what it means to survive. You learn what it means to be chosen. The wind whispered through the trees, carrying with it the scent of rain and earth, and the faintest trace of danger. Lyra's hands tightened around the blanket. Her heart raced, yet for the first time in months she did not feel entirely afraid. She was broken, yes, but perhaps broken in a way that could be healed. And then the shadow stepped fully into the clearing, silent and deliberate. And Lyra knew the night had only just begun. The shadow in the clearing moved with unnerving grace, gliding across the fallen leaves without a sound. Lyra's heart pounded so hard it felt as if the forest itself could hear it. The pack shifted behind her, a living wall of fur and muscle, their eyes glinting in the firelight. The massive wolf at her side, Kyle, lowered his head slightly, his amber eyes fixed on the intruder. The figure stepped into the firelight, and Lyra could see it more clearly now. Cloaked in dark robes, the form was human, or at least it appeared human, but there was something otherworldly in the way it moved. The air seemed to bend around it, and the forest responded with a sudden eerie stillness. Birds froze mid-flight, and even the wind stilled. Kale growled low in his throat, a sound that vibrated through the ground and into Lyra's chest. She felt the warning in her bones. Something was not right. She gripped the blanket tighter, willing herself to stay calm. "Step back," the shadow said, voice smooth and commanding, though no lips moved. The words were carried directly into her mind, echoing alongside Kale's own voice. "This one belongs to me." Kale's growl deepened, reverberating through the clearing. Lyra could feel the pack's tension building. She realized in a flash that the forest itself was alive with anticipation, as though it too understood that a battle of wills was about to begin. Kale stepped forward, his presence radiating authority and power. Even in wolf form, he was magnificent. Tall, imposing, every muscle taut with controlled strength. "She belongs to no one but herself," Kale said, his voice low and commanding. The words resonated in Lyra's mind as clearly as if he had spoken aloud. The shadow laughed, a soft, chilling sound that made the hairs on Lyra's neck stand on end. "Ah, the wolf who thinks he can claim her. You underestimate the strength of the curse that binds her and binds you all." Lyra felt a flicker of confusion. Curse? Bind? What was he talking about? She had run for her life, not knowing the full story, and now, in the cold light of the fire, she realized that her world had grown infinitely larger and infinitely more dangerous than she had ever imagined. Kale's gaze softened slightly as he looked at her. "Lyra," he said, speaking directly to her mind now. "Do you understand what has brought you here? Why you feel drawn to us?" She shook her head. I don't know. I ran. I ran from those who called me broken. From people who abandoned me." Her voice trembled. She had not admitted the full weight of her loneliness to anyone, not even herself. Now, speaking to Kale, she felt the walls around her heart cracking. Kyle's amber eyes seemed to pierce straight into her soul, You are broken, he said softly, but not beyond repair. And that is why you are here. The shadow hissed a sharp, angry sound, and a cold wind swept through the clearing, sending leaves flying like fragments of darkness. Repair? Ha! She is a child of the cursed bloodline. The moment she touches the forest, she will awaken the very wrath that has trapped us all. Lyra's pulse quickened. Bloodline? Wrath, forest. The words felt heavy in her mind, but she did not understand their meaning. Her fear mingled with a strange curiosity. She looked at Cale, seeing in him not just a protector, but someone bound to the forest by secrets she could not yet fathom. You will not harm her, Kyle said, stepping closer to the shadow, his stance firm and unyielding. She will stay with the pack as she is meant to. The shadow paused, studying Cale. Its presence seemed to ripple like heat waves rising from the ground. Then you accept her, it said finally, almost as if surprised. Know this, the forest is not forgiving. She must learn its laws. She must prove her worth, or perish along with all who shelter her. Lyra swallowed hard. She wanted to run. She wanted to escape the weight of expectation, the dangerous pull of this place, the mysterious power radiating from Cale. But she could not move. Something inside her whispered that running now would be wrong, that whatever fate had brought her here, she could not avoid it. The shadow receded into the trees, leaving the clearing quieter than before. The wind began to stir again, and the forest slowly returned to its normal rhythm. Yet Lyra could feel the lingering tension in the air, a warning and a promise at the same time. Cale turned to her then, the wolf's expression softer, but still commanding. You have faced your first test, he said. The forest has judged your heart and you have survived. But survival is only the beginning. Lyra nodded, uncertain. What do I have to do? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. You must learn, Cale said, pacing slowly around her. The forest is alive. It watches, it listens, and it remembers. The pack you see here is not ordinary. They are bound by a curse, as am I. Until the curse is lifted, we are wolves of shadow and spirit, trapped in forms that are not our own. But you, broken as you are, can help us heal. You have the strength to mend what was broken. Lyra felt a mixture of awe and fear. Healing a pack of wolves? Healing a curse? She barely understood her own feelings, let alone the magic and mystery Cale spoke of. Yet a spark of determination ignited inside her. She could not explain why, but she wanted to help. She wanted to belong. She wanted to prove in some small way that even the broken could be strong. Cale circled her slowly, his movements fluid and deliberate. This forest will teach you much, he said, and you will learn that submission is not weakness. To truly survive here, to save us, you must surrender fear, pride, and pain. Only then can you wield your own power. Lyra's stomach nodded. Submission? She had spent her life running from the control of others, and now this wolf, this. Cale asked her to give up control willingly. Yet in his eyes she saw no cruelty, only expectation and trust. It was a strange, almost intoxicating feeling. The rest of the pack moved closer, forming a protective circle around her. Lyra felt their presence like a heartbeat in the ground, steady and strong. She realized that she was not alone, not for the first time in months. Cale lowered his head to hers, the tip of his nose nearly touching her shoulder. You are safe for now, he said, his voice a whisper in her mind. But the forest will not forgive weakness. You will be tested again and again until you understand what it means to belong. Do you understand? Lyra nodded, her throat tight. I think I do. Good, Cale replied. He straightened, his eyes scanning the forest. Rest now. The night is long and the forest is awake. When dawn comes, your lessons begin. Lyra curled beneath her blanket, the firelight casting dancing shadows across her face. The pack settled around her, their eyes never leaving, their bodies tense yet protective. For the first time in a long time, she felt a strange kind of peace. The fear was still there, yes, but it was tempered by a sense of belonging, by the knowledge that she was part of something greater than herself. Hours passed. The moon rose high, silvering the leaves with its light. Lyra drifted into a fitful sleep, dreams filled with whispers of the forest, visions of wolves running through endless night, and the steady, commanding presence of Kyle at her side. In her dreams, she saw glimpses of the curse that bound the forest, of the shadows that lurked beyond the trees, and of a destiny that she could not yet fully understand. When she woke, the first light of dawn was filtering through the canopy. The pack was gone, vanished into the shadows, But Cale remained, sitting just beyond the firelight, watching her with unwavering attention. His presence was comforting, a reminder that she was not alone. Lyra rose slowly, her muscles stiff from the night, and stepped toward him. I want to understand, she said softly, her voice carrying through the quiet forest. Cale's amber eyes softened. And you will, he said. But first you must face the truth. The forest is alive, the pack is cursed, and you are the key. Only by embracing your own strength and the bond between us can we hope to survive what is coming. Lyra nodded, fear and determination mixing in her chest. She did not yet know the full weight of what awaited her, nor the dangers that lurked in the shadows of the forest. But for the first time in months she felt a spark of hope, a thread of courage weaving through the broken pieces of her heart. The wind rustled through the trees, carrying with it the scent of earth and rain and the faintest echo of distant howls. Lyra knew that the forest would test her, that the curse was real and that the path ahead would be perilous. Yet she also knew that she was not alone. Cale was at her side, and the pack, though hidden, watched and waited. And somewhere, deep in the shadows, the first whispers of the curse stirred, as if acknowledging that the broken Omega had arrived, and that the night's true challenges were only just beginning. The forest seemed different in the light of dawn. Every tree, every leaf shimmered with a quiet power, and the path ahead was unclear, winding and shadowed. Lyra moved carefully, her senses alert. Though Cale walked beside her, massive and silent, she felt a twinge of unease. The forest was alive in a way she could almost feel in her bones. You must understand the forest first, Cale said, his voice low and steady in her mind. It is not a place of simple trees and stones. It watches, it tests, and it remembers. Lyra nodded, though her mind was swirling with questions. Why me? Why am I here? Why do I feel connected to it? Cale's amber eyes met hers. Because the forest has chosen you. You are of the bloodline that carries its memory, its curses, and its hope. Your family was tied to this place long before you were born, Lyra faltered. Her family had always seemed ordinary, small people in a distant village. Yet now, hearing Cale speak, she could not deny a flicker of recognition, a pull she could neither explain nor resist. She felt her heart tighten. She had run from everyone who called her broken, and now she was learning that perhaps her pain was not weakness, but a thread leading her to something greater. They walked deeper into the forest. The air grew colder, heavier, and shadows lengthened like fingers across their path. Every sound, the rustle of leaves, the distant call of birds, the whisper of the wind, made her pulse quicken. Kyle led her to a small clearing where the ruins of an ancient stone altar stood. Moss covered the carved shapes, but Lyra could feel the lingering presence of something old, something powerful. It hummed beneath her feet like a heartbeat. This is where it begins, Kyle said. This forest is cursed. The pack you see, the wolves, what they were and what they have become, is bound by magic older than any crown or king. And you are the key to breaking it. Lyra's hands trembled. A curse? She whispered. Why me? Cale stepped closer, his presence both protective and intense. Because you are the only one who can heal what was broken. The pack's suffering mirrors your own, and your bloodline. It carries the same mark of loss and betrayal that trapped us here. Only by facing your own fear, your own grief, can you help us heal. Lyra looked at the altar. It seemed impossibly ancient, worn yet filled with power. She felt drawn toward it, though fear clenched her chest. Something whispered to her, in a language she did not know but understood all the same. You are meant for this. You cannot run anymore. She swallowed, her throat dry. And if I fail? Cale's amber eyes darkened, serious. Then the forest keeps what it has taken. The pack remains cursed, and you will remain alone, broken and hunted by the shadows that linger here. The weight of those words settled over her like a stone. She had fled from loneliness her whole life, and now she realized she could not flee from this. Her destiny, as terrifying as it seemed, demanded courage. She had to try. Kyle lowered his head, brushing her shoulder lightly with his muzzle, a gesture gentle yet commanding. Fear is natural, but it does not control you. You must decide, will you embrace the forest or will you let it consume you? Lyra nodded slowly. I will try. I want to understand. Cale's ears twitched as he looked toward the shadows. Then begin, he said. The first lesson is not of strength, but of perception. Listen, feel. The forest communicates with those who know how to hear. Lyra closed her eyes, focusing on the rustling leaves, the hum of life beneath the ground, the distant calls of creatures hidden in the foliage. Slowly, she began to sense patterns, rhythms, and shifts in the energy around her. The forest was alive in a way that went beyond the ordinary. She could feel it breathing, moving, watching. Hours passed. Kyle guided her silently, testing her awareness, showing her how to move without disturbing the undergrowth, how to sense danger before it arrived. The wolves followed at a distance, their presence a quiet reassurance. Lyra began to understand something profound. Survival here required more than physical skill. It required connection to the land, to the pack, and to something deep within herself. As the sun began to sink, painting the forest in amber and gold, Kyle led her to a stream. The water was clear, almost glowing, and reflected the sky and trees in fractured patterns. Kale stopped and looked at her intently. "Drink," he said. "But do more than drink. Listen to the water. It carries memory, stories of the forest, and the echoes of the curse." Lyra bent down and sipped the water. It was cool, refreshing, and strange, almost as if it carried a subtle pulse that vibrated through her veins. As she drank, images flitted through her mind. Flashes of people long gone, wolves running in moonlight, whispers of betrayal, glimpses of the curse itself. She gasped, pulling back. What is happening?" Kale's voice was steady. "The forest is showing you. It reveals its history to those who are chosen. You will see its pain, its loss, and its hope. You must bear it in order to heal it." Lyra trembled but nodded. She felt the weight of something larger than herself pressing against her mind. Yet she did not resist. Slowly, images began to make sense. She saw a queen, powerful and vengeful, whose magic had twisted the land and trapped the pack. She saw Kale, not as a wolf but as a man bound by the queen's curse, and she saw herself connected to this web of power, pain, and destiny. "Your bloodline carries the mark of the queen's wrath," Kyle said softly. "She sought to destroy what we represent. But you have the power to break the chain. The first step is understanding. You must face your own past, your own fear, to give us a future." Lyra's heart ached at the vision of her ancestors, caught in cycles of loss and betrayal. She understood now why she had always felt isolated, why whispers of failure had clung to her since childhood. It was not merely personal misfortune. It was inherited pain, waiting for someone brave enough to confront it. Night fell again, and the forest grew dark and thick around them. Kale lay down near her, his massive form protective, yet he did not allow her to feel entirely safe. "The shadows will test you," he said. "You may see things that frighten you. You may face echoes of betrayal and loss, but you are stronger than you know. Remember this. Fear is only the first step toward understanding." Lyra nodded, her resolve hardening. She had fled the world outside these trees, but now she realized that running had never truly saved her. True strength required standing still, facing the darkness and reaching beyond it. A sudden rustle in the trees startled her, and Kale's ears flicked forward. The pack moved closer, circling silently. Lyra felt their presence like a shield, but also a reminder. They were tied to her fate as surely as she was tied to theirs. Their eyes glinted with intelligence, longing, and unspoken questions. She understood in that moment that she was not merely learning to survive, she was learning to belong. Hours later, Lyra finally lay down beneath the blanket, the fire reduced to embers. The forest whispered around her, alive with unseen movement. She drifted into a dreamless sleep, but the lessons of the day lingered in her mind. She saw the queen's shadow, the pack suffering, and Kale's amber eyes, steady, watchful, and full of unspoken promise. When she awoke, the forest was bathed in silver light from a rising moon. The whispers of leaves and shadows seemed more urgent, as if calling her forward. She rose slowly, feeling the weight of the past and the responsibility of the future pressing on her shoulders. Kale nudged her gently, guiding her toward a narrow path through the trees. "Your training begins in earnest tomorrow," he said. "But tonight you have seen the first truths. Remember them. And remember this: the forest does not forgive hesitation. You must be ready for whatever comes next." Lyra nodded, determination and fear coiling together in her chest. She had faced the forest's first test, glimpsed the shadows of the past, and felt the pull of destiny for the first time. The bond with Kale deepened, subtle and powerful, like a river carving through stone, silent, unstoppable and permanent. And in the far distance among the trees, a shadow moved again. Lyra did not flinch this time. She knew that whatever came next, she would face it, not alone but with the pack and Kale at her side, and with a courage born from the fractures of her own heart. The forest grew darker as Lyra and Kale moved deeper, the canopy above swallowing the waning light. Shadows twisted among the trunks and the air grew thick, almost tangible, pressing against her chest. Every step felt deliberate, as if the forest itself measured her resolve. She could feel Kale's presence close, steady, grounding her. But even his calm authority could not dispel the growing tension. "You feel it too, don't you?" Lyra asked quietly, her voice trembling slightly. Kale's amber eyes met hers. "The curse is older than any of us. It hungers for fear, for doubt. Every shadow you see, it is a fragment of what it has taken before. And now it watches you." Lyra shivered. She had thought she understood fear. She had thought she had faced loneliness and betrayal. But the forest made her doubt everything. Still, something deeper stirred within her, a spark of courage, fragile but persistent. She tightened the blanket she carried, a small reminder of the world she had left behind, and stepped forward. The path led to a clearing bathed in an unnatural silver light, though no moon shone above. In the center stood a circle of ancient stones, carved with symbols that pulsed faintly. The air hummed with energy, and Lyra could feel her pulse quicken in response. Kale stopped and looked at her intently. "This is the heart of the curse," he said. "Here the queen's magic lingers strongest. Here the pack's pain and the forest's sorrow converge. If you are to break it, this is where you begin." Lyra swallowed hard, gazing at the stones. The carvings seemed to shift as she looked at them, almost alive. Whispers brushed the edges of her mind, voices of long-dead spirits murmuring secrets and warnings she could barely comprehend. She felt a sudden vertigo, as if the ground beneath her had become both solid and liquid at the same time. "Stay close," Kyle said, stepping to her side. "Do not be afraid of what you see. The curse will try to break you. But you must remember, fear is only a test. Trust yourself and trust me." Lyra nodded, though doubt gnawed at her. She had fled danger her whole life. She had never faced a test like this, and yet beneath the fear a strange determination burned. She had survived this far. She had faced wolves, shadows, and the forest itself. She would not falter now. Kale extended a paw, and when Lyra placed her hand in it, a surge of energy passed through her. Not pain, not cold, but a connection. A tether binding her to him, to the pack, and to the forest itself. She felt their suffering, their longing, and their hope, all converging within her. "You are part of this now," Kale whispered in her mind. "Your strength can heal what has been broken for centuries. But first, you must face your past. Only by accepting it can you move forward." Lyra closed her eyes, letting her mind drift back to memories she had tried to forget. The village that had turned against her, the whispers, the ridicule, the isolation. Each moment of shame and loneliness seemed to rise around her, forming shadows that crept closer. But this time she did not run. She did not turn away. She faced each shadow, naming it, acknowledging it, letting herself feel the pain without letting it control her. The stones glowed brighter as she did, and the whispers intensified, overlapping, chaotic yet strangely melodic. They spoke of the queen who had cursed the forest, of Kale's true form, of the pack's history, and of her own ancestors who had fought, failed, and left behind the fragments she now carried. Through it all, Kyle stayed by her side, a constant presence. His amber eyes never leaving hers. She felt an unspoken support, a bond that went beyond words. In his presence, she discovered something she had almost forgotten: hope. And alongside hope, a growing sense of connection, a realization that she was no longer alone in the world. Suddenly, the shadows began to take form, rising from the ground like mist given shape. Figures, humans, wolves, and creatures she could not name, emerged from the darkness. Their eyes were hollow, their mouths silent, but their presence was powerful. The curse was alive, and it sought to test her. Lyra took a deep breath, gripping Kale's paw tightly. "I am not afraid," she whispered, though her heart still raced. The figures surged forward, circling her, their movements swift and deliberate. Kale stepped in front of her, growling low, muscles tense, ready to strike. But he did not attack. Instead, he guided her, helping her move with awareness, showing her how to navigate the circle without violence. "Feel their intentions," he said. The curse reacts to fear, anger, and doubt. Stay calm, stay centered. Let the connection guide you, Lyra focused, breathing deeply. She could feel the figures as extensions of the forest, echoes of pain and suffering. Not enemies, but challenges. She moved with the rhythm of the clearing, stepping lightly, matching her energy to the forest's pulse. Slowly, one by one, the shadows began to falter, their forms dissipating into mist, their voices fading. The stones glowed brighter still, casting silvery light across the clearing. Lyra's confidence grew. The curse was testing her, but she was learning to respond, not with fear, but with understanding. She felt Kale's pride radiate in the tether between them, though he said nothing aloud. Then came the final test. A massive shadow, larger and darker than the rest, rose from the center of the stone circle. Its form was twisted like smoke and darkness given shape, and its eyes burned with malice. Lyra's breath caught. She realized this was the queen's lingering spirit, the core of the curse itself. Kale stepped forward, growling deep and low. "This is the heart," he whispered in her mind. "Face it." "You are ready." Lyra's legs trembled, but she nodded. She stepped into the circle, feeling the cold mist curl around her feet. The shadow loomed closer, its presence heavy, oppressive, almost suffocating. She felt the weight of centuries pressing down upon her. The suffering of the pack, the pain of her ancestors, and the echo of her own loneliness. But she did not falter. She raised her head, meeting the shadow's burning gaze, and let the lessons of the forest guide her. She focused on her heart, on Kale, on the bond she now shared with the pack. She let the fear flow through her, acknowledged it, and then let it go. The shadow shrieked, a sound that echoed through the trees and rattled her very bones. Yet Lyra stood firm, her presence a beacon in the darkness. She could feel the curse's power weakening, dissolving against her acceptance and courage. The air shimmered, the stones pulsed, and the forest itself seemed to exhale. Kyle stepped closer, brushing her shoulder with his muzzle. "You have done well," he said, his voice both proud and soft. "The curse is not gone, but you have proven yourself. You are stronger than you know, and the pack, the forest, they feel it too." Lyra exhaled, relief washing over her. She had faced the heart of the curse, and though the shadow lingered, she had not broken. She had survived. She had begun to heal. Not just the forest, not just the pack, but herself. The shadows receded and the clearing grew quiet. The forest seemed to embrace her now, the air warm and comforting. Kale's massive form lay beside her, protective yet gentle. Lyra felt a connection stronger than she had ever known, a bond of trust and shared experience. "You are ready for what comes next," Kale said softly. "But remember this, the forest never forgets and the queen's spirit may return. You must remain vigilant." "Your journey is far from over?" Lyra nodded, her chest full of determination. She had faced the darkness and survived. She had begun to understand her own strength, and she had discovered a bond with Kale and the pack that went beyond words. She was no longer the broken Omega she had once been. She was part of something larger, a living, breathing story of courage, connection, and transformation. As the night deepened, the moon casting silver light across the stones, Lyra felt a surge of resolve. She would continue, no matter what trials awaited her. She would learn the secrets of the forest, the history of the curse, and the full measure of Kale's power. And she would face the queen's lingering spirit not as a frightened girl, but as a force capable of healing centuries of pain. The forest was quiet now, but the air held a promise. Something was coming. Something that would test her courage, her bond with Kale, and the strength she had only begun to discover. And somewhere, deep in the shadows beyond the trees, the queen's spirit stirred, sensing the broken Omega's growing power and the pack's hope. The forest seemed to hold its breath as Lyra and Kyle stepped into the clearing. The silver light of the moon filtered through the dense canopy, painting the stones with an ethereal glow. The shadows were deeper here, swirling as if alive, and the air vibrated with unseen power. Lyra could feel the weight of the queen's lingering spirit pressing down upon the forest. It was stronger than any fear she had ever known. Kale's eyes, amber and steady, met hers. "This is it," he said in her mind. "The heart of the curse. Whatever you face here will test everything you have learned. Your courage, your strength, your heart. Remember, Lyra, you are not alone." Lyra nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. Her hands trembled slightly, but she felt a surge of determination. She had come too far to falter now. She had faced shadows, the pack's pain, and her own fears. She had survived. And she had Kale by her side, steady, commanding, yet gentle. She drew in a deep breath and stepped forward. The air grew cold and a shadow larger than any she had seen rose from the center of the stone circle. Its form was human-like but distorted, a swirling mass of darkness, its eyes glowing red with centuries of anger. Lyra's heart clenched, but she did not run. She had learned to face fear, to embrace it, and now she would use it as a guide rather than a chain. Kale growled low in her mind. Do not let it control you. Remember who you are and who you protect. The shadow's voice echoed in the clearing, rough and chilling. You think a child of broken blood can undo what I have built? You cannot touch the curse, the suffering, the power I command. Lyra stepped closer. She could feel the pulse of the forest beneath her feet, the steady heartbeat of the pack, and the bond she shared with Kale. I am not just a child of broken blood, she said, her voice steady in the silence. I am someone who has survived, someone who has learned, someone who will not run anymore. The shadow surged forward, darkness curling like smoke around her. Lyra's instincts screamed to flee, but she planted her feet firmly and raised her arms slightly, centering herself. She felt the connection Kale had taught her, the forest, the pack, and her own inner strength. You are not the master here, she whispered to the shadow, letting her courage grow. I am. The shadow recoiled slightly, almost as if surprised by her defiance. It lashed out, tendrils of darkness reaching for her, but Lyra let the energy of the forest guide her. She moved with the rhythm of the stones, stepping lightly, letting her resolve and her heart shine through the fear. Kale moved beside her, his massive form protective, yet graceful. He did not strike, did not fight. Instead, he channeled his own power, the bond between them strengthening like two rivers joining into one. Lyra could feel the pack's presence too, their spirits entwined with hers, supporting her every step. The shadow shrieked, a sound that seemed to shake the entire forest. Yet Lyra stood firm. She let herself feel everything, the fear, the pain, the anger, the sorrow. And then she let it flow through her, transforming into determination, courage, and love. Love for Kale, for the pack, and for the forest that had become her home. Suddenly the air shimmered. The stones glowed with a brilliant light brighter than moonlight, illuminating the clearing. The shadow faltered, twisting and writhing as if it could not withstand the purity of the emotion flowing through Lyra. Kale stepped closer, pressing his head gently against her shoulder. His voice was calm, steady, and full of pride. You are stronger than you know. The curse feeds on weakness, but you have none left to give it. This is your moment. Lyra felt a warmth spread through her chest, a power she had never known she possessed. She extended her hands, letting the energy of the forest, the pack, and Kale converge into her own being. Light radiated from her, touching the shadow, reaching into its core. The shadow screamed again, a final cry that echoed through the forest before it began to dissolve, like smoke caught in the wind. The air grew still, the pressure lifted, and the forest exhaled in relief. The curse that had bound Kale, the pack, and the land itself for centuries had begun to break. Kale's form shifted before her eyes. The massive wolf began to glow faintly, then changed, morphing back into his human shape. Lyra gasped, seeing the man he truly was, tall, strong, with eyes still amber and full of unspoken emotion. The bond they shared did not waver, even as his body returned to its original form. You did it, Kale said softly, his voice warm, full of awe. You have broken the first layer of the curse. The forest will heal, the pack will be free, and I owe you more than I can ever say. Lyra's chest ached with a mix of relief, joy, and wonder. She reached out, touching his arm lightly. We did it, she said. Together. Kale smiled faintly, a mixture of pride and tenderness. Yes, together. The rest of the pack began to shift as well. Wolves that had been bound by the curse slowly returned to human form, revealing men and women who had lived in shadow for far too long. They looked at Lyra with gratitude, some in tears, some in awe. She realized that her courage had freed not just Kale, but many others who had suffered under the Queen's lingering magic. The forest seemed to celebrate with them. Leaves rustled like applause, and a gentle light filtered through the canopy, brighter and warmer than before. The air was filled with a sense of peace, a promise that life and hope could endure even after centuries of pain. Kale turned to her, his expression softening. Lyra, the bond between us is stronger now. You have not only freed us but awakened something in me, something I did not know I could feel. Lyra's heart skipped a beat. She had felt it too. The pull of connection, the deep bond that had grown between them through fear, courage, and shared trials. She smiled softly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. Kyle, I never knew I could belong somewhere. But here, same with you, I finally feel like I do. Kyle stepped closer, taking her hands in his. And you will belong, Lyra. Not because the forest or the pack demands it, but because you have chosen to stay. You are no longer broken, you are whole. Lyra felt tears prick her eyes. After so long of running, after so many nights of fear and loneliness, she had finally found a place in someone who truly understood her. She had faced darkness, endured trials, and embraced her own strength, and now she was part of something beautiful, something enduring. The wind whispered through the clearing, carrying the faintest laughter of spirits freed, of shadows lifted, and of hope renewed. Lyra and Kyle stood together, hands entwined, feeling the forest breathe around them, alive with life and promise. Whatever comes next, Kyle said, his voice low and steady, we face it together. No curse, no shadow, no fear can separate us. Lyra nodded, her heart full. Together, she agreed. For the first time in her life, Lyra did not feel broken. She felt strong, loved, and at home. The forest, the pack, and Kale had become her family, her purpose, and her sanctuary. She had faced darkness and emerged not just unscathed, but transformed. As dawn broke, painting the forest with gold and silver, Lyra and Kale walked forward hand in hand. The shadows of the past had been faced. The curse had been challenged, and though some remnants lingered, they were no longer chains but reminders of strength, courage, and the power of connection. The pack followed, loyal and free, their forms shifting fluidly between wolf and human as the curse weakened further. The forest hummed with life, its energy no longer oppressive but nurturing, welcoming, and protective. Lyra looked up at Kale, her eyes shining. We did it, she whispered. Yes, he replied, his hand brushing hers gently. And this is only the beginning. The forest stretched before them, vast and alive, filled with mystery and wonder. And Lyra knew deep in her heart that no matter what trials lay ahead, she would face them with courage, with Kale, and with the strength that had once seemed impossible. She was no longer the broken Omega. She was the heart of the forest, the bond of the pack, and the keeper of courage and hope. And for the first time, she felt truly free.